Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope everybody's doing great today. So it sounds like people are getting some work done, doing some pickleball. It must be spring. So today I wanted to do I wanted to do Easter. Was kind of what I was going to go for the theme. But the problem is the Pen Blank Club, I'm not shipping those blanks until like a week after Easter. So I was like, well, we'll just call it spring colors. So we're doing spring colors today. It'll be Easterish, and it should be kind of fun. We're going to do a little bit of interference plus colors. So it should be kind of fun. Now this time though, we've done a lot of dirty pours with interference, and that's a really cool way to kind of create like one color that has like a lot of stuff going on. But you know, if you just pour them separately, you get a totally different experience. So luckily we've got just the perfect interference powders, or ghost, whichever one you want to call it, that will go really well with what I wanted to do for the colors in the blanks. So let me get all the colors out and I'll show you what we got going on. And we have a special project. It's kind of a silly, fun, random thing, but it's also educational. So that should be cool. So overhead view, we're going to go with canary yellow. And to match up with that, we'll do a little interference gold. I don't have a whole lot of interference gold. Do I have another one? Sheesh. I think I've got some. I may not have. Oh, I got a gigantic one. We're just going to consolidate this. I got a big one. Anyway, so we got some yellow golds going on. I kind of like this this crazy purple, Common Budokai, whatever. I thought that would be pretty good. We could do like I'm going for kind of like pastels, like lighter. So let me just double check and see if there's anything in here. Well, lilac. Lilac's pretty good. After I opened that and looked at it, I was like, I don't know. I'm going to pull out the pen and look at the finish. Yeah, I don't know. That Common Buka. Let's do lilac, because we did the Common Buka in the pen that we recently did, and then we can compare the colors after we polish them up, because they're kind of close. But anyway, we got lilac, and let's see, interference violet. Oh man, so we'll do a little bit of that, and then this is my new favorite, like kind of bright greens, Sibafu. So we'll do a nice light green, and of course interference green. So should be pretty fun. So we're going to do a 6-color pour. And another thing that you can do with this, depending on how you pour the colors, you could get slightly different results. Now we're going to end up mixing it all together, so I don't know, take some of this with a grain of salt. But the way that I plan to do this is, yeah, let's see those two. I kind of plan to pour the like canary yellow and then the interference gold right after that, and then, you know, do like lilac purple and then interference right after that. So when I'm doing the pours, I'll do them in a specific order kind of thing. Now, like I said, I mean, it's all going to get kind of mixed up in the end anyway, because we're just going to do you know, pouring things together. But it should be kind of fun, and I think I've done like you know, spring colors, flowers, that kind of thing, but it's always been just like a mica powder. So I'm really interested to see how this interference, and it's the difference between doing like a dirty pour, you know, if I just kind of made 2 cups, one with interference gold, one with canary yellow, and then dumped them together, like that's going to kind of come out as like one color. It's going to have variations and stuff in it, but for the most part, it's going to kind of be like one color more, I think, in my head, where if you're dumping interference gold, you're going to have like bigger blobs of just interference gold. So it should be kind of an interesting, I don't know. We'll have to kind of see how this all goes. I don't even know what's going to happen. Now, one other thing that we could do, and I'm thinking about this. So on the one hand, it would be kind of cool to toss in some, like a very tiny amount of black, because it's going to pop the interference colors. I don't really like black with my Easter colors though, so I think what I'm going to do is we'll go with some white. We'll just, and it's going to be just a little bit, and it'll just kind of add a little bit of breakup to the colors. Have something that's just, you know, kind of white solid. So we'll just, we're doing a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of that. We're just going to add a little bit where there's a little bit of little white things going on. So it should be kind of fun, I think. Yeah, I know. It was Gold Fever, Gold Rush on the Saturday morning cartoons. Those things look pretty cool. And one of the things, I think they're going to be way cooler when he cuts into them. Because he poured it, and so, what did somebody say? It looks like, oh, what did they say? And it was true. It looked like something less interesting than a bunch of golds. It was, I can't remember what they said. And it did, when you poured it in there, it kind of looked a little bit just, there, you know, you lost like the 12 colors of gold in there. But I think when he cuts into those things are going to be like whew, craziness going on. So it should be kind of cool. Let's see, not the gold. Oh, is that if I ran out of gold? Yeah, we're not going to run out of gold. And I was a little bit torn. I like the canary yellow, but I was actually thinking about using something that I had just picked up. 10 karat gold is pretty light, but I was going for even a little bit lighter. So 10 karat gold would have been, but it's a little bit like a brighter yellow, but that's a pretty good yellow. If you're just going for yellow, it's a little bit darker though. Where I was going for kind of like light, but this 10 karat's a pretty good one. I pretty much own every single gold that iCandy makes at this point, so I know all of them. They look pretty good too. So now on to what we're going to do first. So this is going to be the second part of the show. I've got something that I need to take care of, and I think it's a good opportunity to share a way to handle something. So if you've got, I'm going to put on the my face view while I kind of work on this gold. I don't know, is this thing going to fit? I think what I'm going to do, problem is I have too many mica powders, and this is not what I was talking about. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing with this interference gold. So if you've got resin that is like way old, still liquid, you know, your part A and part B, and it doesn't matter what kind of resin. The problem is you're like, I don't know if this stuff still works. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe something's wrong with it. It's turned yellow. Like it's like been sitting in your shop for like a year. Probably not. Like I would recommend, you can always do an experiment and try to see, does it still work? All right, but I'm kind of talking about the one that you're like, I don't even want to use this. I don't know. That's fine if it works, but I would rather just go get fresh resin. What do I do with this old resin? And I had that. So last summer when I had all the issues with I'm pretty sure I had like a moisture contamination in an 80-gallon, or you know, I mean a 10-gallon kit, the 80-pound kit thing. So I had a whole ton of resin that was totally useless, and I've been waiting to do something with it, but you can't just take the liquids, throw them in the trash can, and then expect the trash pickup to take it to the dump. You don't want that stuff in liquid form seeping into the ground. Basically, it's basically like a toxic chemical, or you know, whatever. Like you would have to like hazmat it. So the way to get around that though is very simple. You just pour it together, harden it, and then you can chuck it in the trash. It's just, you know, unfortunately it's a giant piece of plastic, but at least it's not going to like seep into the ground or be toxic at that point once once it's hardened. Now, if you've got something that doesn't harden, I don't know, you're going to have to figure out a way to dispose of that properly, I guess. But for the most part, it usually will still harden. What I'm getting at is sometimes it may not like harden normally. If it's been sitting around for a really long time, or it'll yellow, and you really just don't want to use it for pen blanks, or whatever you're making, casting stuff. The way to dispose of it, the easiest way, is if you can get it to harden, then everything's fine. It's not toxic or anything. So we've got a lot of resin, and in this case especially, this stuff, it wasn't so much that it didn't, like work, or that it yellowed or did something weird, or it was just old. It literally had like a problem and it wasn't working for me. It was bubbling up and doing weird stuff. So in that case, like that's one where you just need to kind of mix it together, harden it, and then chuck it. And so I wanted to show you guys, I had stuff left in the jug. As you can see, it's hardened. And I think the easiest way to dispose of this without even wasting a mold or your time or a pressure pot or any of that kind of stuff, literally just dump them into the same, jug, dump the A into the B. I would go with, if you're using like Alumilite clear, I would dump the A out into the B because it's thinner. More of it'll come out. And then literally cap it off and then just shake it up. You don't even have to stir it. You don't have to waste your time doing, mixing paddle or anything. Shake it up really hard in the jug. And then what I would do is also pour it back into the part A, and then shake that, like half of it, and then shake both of those up, let it sit and cure, and then chuck it in the trash. All right. And so that's what I did with this. I had quite a bit left in the carboy. So I just popped the cap open, dumped in the part A, and then just shook up the thing, and it hardened up, and now I can throw this all away without any problems. Now, the thing is, I've still got a jug of A and B left over that was still sitting there. So what we're going to do instead, I also have a bunch of dye stabilized wood chunks that I'm okay wasting, kind of. They're kind of funky pieces, dense pieces, and different stuff. I pulled a couple out that I wouldn't necessarily really want to waste. And there's some interesting pieces in here, but I have plenty of other stuff that I can use if I want to make hybrid blanks. But so what we're going to do is we're going to make like a bowl blank and see if this stuff actually works, because it is really old at this point. I mean, we're edging up on a year almost, but it'll probably still harden. And so instead of just wasting it in the jug, I thought let's waste it in a big bucket and see what happens. So I may end up turning it down the road, and it should be kind of fun. So we'll see. All right, so let's see. Did I miss any questions or anything? There's a question, David. What brand of resin that turns well has a 30 to 45 minute work time? Liquid Diamonds is pretty good. Depends on what you're doing, where I would recommend. But I mean, for the most part, you can pretty much pick up any epoxy and go for it. One that I kind of like, it has a drawback. So that's why I was kind of asking, like, what are you doing with it necessarily, or specifically? Amazing Clear Cast Plus. So not the regular, I hate Amazing Clear Cast, the regular one. That stuff is like really hard, pretty kind of brittle, and it's a very thick resin, extremely thick resin. Like it's, especially if you're mixing a bunch of it up, like your arm is literally going to get tired. So I don't like the regular one, but the Plus version, I use it for quite a few things. That's pretty much what I use for hybrid blanks. Like if it's dead clear and I've got like the spiky bits that you want to see, that's what I use like all the time. I find that Alumilite Clear Slow, which is a really good resin and turns well and does everything wonderfully nice. It just doesn't have your same, it doesn't have that extended work time. The problem I find is Alumilite Clear Slow, if you've got a pretty smooth bit of stuff that you're trying to stick it to. So like even this, I find that you get adhesion issues if it's really smooth with Alumilite Clear Slow. But I've never gotten that kind of thing. And do I have the blank that I can kind of share? I'm pretty sure I kept, yeah, I got it. Here we go. Here we go. This is what happens sometimes. And I don't know what exactly the deal is. It has to do with the smoothness, but you see all that silver stuff? That means that like basically the resin didn't really adhere. You could maybe argue that there's a little bit of, it could be like a moisture thing, maybe even, I don't know. Whatever it is, I don't really care because I never get this if I use epoxy with wood. So the problem that I have though with epoxies, many of them are kind of soft, they're like really brittle, kind of like harder. And so it's been kind of tough, but there's two that I like actually, and they're both from Alumilite. The Amazing Clearcast Plus, and that stuff's got some UV inhibitors in it, so it also makes some sense if you're going for a dead clear blank. That's a good one to have because it's got extra UV inhibitors in it. Does it matter? I don't know, you know, totally, but it has that, but it turns extremely well. It's a little bit softer. It's not as hard and kind of like, I almost want to say kind of almost like a brittleness. The regular Amazing Clearcast is kind of brittle, where the Plus version turns very similar to Alumilite Clear Slow. And then another one, this one falls into a kind of a specific category. It has some drawbacks. So their Deep Pour, that one also turns extremely well. It's very similar. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and Clear Slow. The problem with that is it's got a 2-hour working time, which poses problems if you're trying to, if it's one color, that's all you're doing, or you need a lot of time. It's a good resin to use, but, and it's also got like, you might have to leave it in the pressure pot for like 3 days, depending on how big the thing is. So anyway, Liquid Diamonds is very thin though, extremely clear, and turns well. So it just kind of depends on which way you want to go, but Liquid Diamonds is a good one. And there's other ones also. I mean, I would imagine Total Boat's all right. I think it kind of falls a little bit. They've got different versions now, so some of them may. And to be 100% clear, I've never even tried Total Boat, but just from watching some videos and stuff from people, it seems like the kind of like the normal Total Boat seems a little bit more like that, kind of more, a little bit harder, brittler than some other ones. It's not bad, it's not terrible, but it seems like that it just seems kind of hard. So I don't know, but I don't have experience with that, so I'm not sure. That's based on just me watching other people turn it. But there's lots of other ones out there. I mean, honestly, I think you could probably pick up any epoxy that's 30 to 45 minutes and just it'll work fine. So anyway, that was a very long answer. Yeah, just to be clear, just because something's got UV inhibitors in it, like every single, I don't care what the label or box says, every resin will turn yellow under the right circumstances, because the reason that it does that is there's UV particles basically kick out other particles that are in the in the resin, and that's what ends up causing, like, you can't avoid that. There's nothing that they can put in it that's going to stop that process. And I've talked to like Curtis Seebeck. He knows a lot about resins, and he also had a lot of time in his previous life. He was I think a custom home builder basically. And so he knows about exterior coatings. Like, we're talking like industrial exterior coatings for like houses and stuff. And there's nothing out there that will not yellow eventually. So just be aware of that when something said, that's why I was like, does it really matter that much? It just kind of depends on what's going on. I mean, one of the craziest things, so I made a gear shift knob for my truck, and it was in my truck for over a year, and it's not garaged or anything. Like, it sits out in the hot sun, and there's windows, right? It never yellowed, and it's just Alumilite Clear Slow. I don't know, but I've got stuff that's been sitting in my shop that's either, an epoxy or something that's got UV inhibitors in it and all that stuff, or Alumilite Clear Slow or clear or whatever, and that stuff yellows in a drawer in my shop. So I don't fully understand exactly what's going on, but radiation somehow causes it. I don't know. Heat and radiation, I think both kind of work together with that. So, like I said, but you asked what turns well. The Clear Plus turns pretty well. Like every day I would pick that over Amazing Clearcast, the regular one. It's just night and day. And like I said, deep pour works pretty good, but I mean, 2-hour working time is kind of ridiculous. It's great for like things like micarta and other things where, you know, having like an unlimited working time and you're not trying to swirl it or do something specific to it. One color, clear, you know, river tables, obviously that's what it's made for. Even labels will work. It's just, it's a long working time, which may or may not really matter that much. It's also a pretty thin resin, which is nice. It's very similar to Clear Slow, but if you're pouring like label blanks, like you're probably gonna have to leave that stuff in the pressure pot for 3 days. Like I'm not 72 hours. Like it's not gonna be hardened until then. But it does harden up really well. I mean, even in small amounts. So it works fine. It's just it takes forever for it to harden up. It's a 7-day. I don't really think that blue's really going to do much. I mean, you could try that, but it's still going to probably turn, basically it's going to turn green then. Like I said, there are some that work better. They offset stuff. And like if you're doing like label blanks, as much as I hate to even recommend this because I can't stand this stuff, polyester resin resists yellowing the best. Out of all the resins out there, it works the best. And like if you're doing stuff, I think for normal label blanks, you're literally sticking a sticker on a tube. Liquid diamonds is what I would do for that. That's it. I really like the thin viscosity of liquid diamonds, so it doesn't create as many bubbles when you're pouring it. I'd still pressurize the heck out of label blanks, but because it's already thin, the bubbles come out and you don't get little bubbles trapped underneath the tube, depending on what method you're doing it with. But so it's a really good one, and it's extremely clear. The clarity on liquid diamonds is like excellent. But if you're doing things that are like a label blank type of a deal, like for instance, Chad does things where it's like vintage, like stocks and bonds and like interesting documents where you really over time don't want this to yellow kind of thing. He always uses polyester resin because that stuff just really doesn't tend to yellow, but this stuff is nasty to work with. It smells terrible, but it's a good one. So anyway, let's see here. All right, so first thing I want to do, I'm going to spray this, even though it'll probably just pop out of there. Still a good idea to just spray the bucket and move on with your life. I don't like having this stuff blow all over the place. I'll be right back. I'm gonna turn on my dust collector, have it suck some of this stuff up. Actually, I'm gonna turn on this thing. There we go. All right, so I've given the bucket a little bit of a coating. And I've got a bunch of wood chunks, like I was saying. Now, I did toss these guys into the oven. I'm going to just go to this screen thing. I tossed them into the oven just to they're stabilized. But you need to be very cautious about, you can't just be like, oh, well, they're stabilized. They're not going to absorb moisture. The thing about stabilizing is, how stabilized is it? For the most part, you can't really screw up stabilizing. Like it's not like it worked or it didn't. Like, it's not binary. It's how stabilized did you get it? Like if you do all the stuff, get it literally 1,000% dried out and, ran the vacuum for as long as it takes to get all the air bubbles out, air out of the inside. Let it soak until it was 100,000% saturated, right? Like there's all of these steps you can do on a scale. Did you get it perfectly dry? Maybe, maybe not, you know, whatever. Did you leave it under vacuum, you know, and get every little ounce of air out of there? You know, it's somewhere in there, but rarely is it like 100%. So the thing is, you'll probably get reasonably good results stabilizing no matter what you do. It's going to be at least somewhat stabilized, even if you did like kind of half of everything, right? But what ends up happening is you got your little stabilized piece of wood, and if you just let it sit out, just like anything else in life, you let it sit out, it's going to absorb the ambient moisture in the air. So especially if you're in a place that's very humid, the ambient humidity is you know 80% or something like that. I guarantee you there's going to be a little bit of absorption. It's not going to probably penetrate deep into the piece of wood, but you're definitely going to have surface moisture, and you're going to get a little bit that gets kind of sucked into little pores. So even if your wood is stabilized, definitely toss it in the oven for at like, you know, 150 or whatever. I mean, you can even go up to like 200 if you want, but I don't find that to be totally necessary. But I do it like the same oven that I use for heating molds when I do that, which I put at like 140, 150, something like that. I'll just toss them in the oven, let them sit there for, I mean, like a minimum 15 minutes, 30 minutes would probably be even better. So I've had these things just sitting in the oven for like, you know, half an hour before the stream. And that way you flash off any moisture that's on the surface. And what you want to do is leave them in the oven until you're like, okay, it's time to pour, then throw them in the bucket. That's going to be the best way to avoid any moisture issues. If you're working with Alumilite Clear Slow or any urethane resin, specifically a urethane base, it hates moisture. It's going to react with it, even if it's a little bit of surface moisture, okay? So, and if you're not stabilizing your wood, you better, you know, fully dry it out before you toss it in. Now, one thing that I don't stabilize are like the mini pine cones. I just don't find, the process is terrible, and it's not really benefiting it in any way. So what I do is I just toss you know, a basket of these things in the oven and leave them in there for, realistically, I'll just leave it in. We have a lab oven. I'll do it overnight, you know, just to make sure everything's fully dry. But you don't need to leave these things in an oven for like overnight. But if, you know, an hour or so should probably be good for like little mini pine cones. The thicker the material and the denser it gets, the longer you're going to need to dry it out. But again, just because you put it in the oven for 2 hours doesn't mean you can take it out and let it sit on the desk. You basically need to take it out of the hot oven while it's hot and fully dried out in there, and then dump it in your bucket and then pour the resin on right away. So that's one thing that people get kind of messed up with, drying it out. You can dry it out 100%, but the minute that you take it out of the heat source that's drying it out, it's going to immediately start absorbing moisture. So, and even with stabilized wood, there's going to be a little bit on the surface. The way that I found this out is I was actually doing a demo at SWAT. I sent a pine cone, a big sugar, whatever pine cone. I sent it out to Curtis, like, you know, a few weeks before the demonstration. And we were going to cast this giant thing in a huge 6-inch PVC pipe. And there was just moisture problems all over this thing. And I was like, it's stabilized. What's going on? And what we came up with is that it was just surface moisture. So if I would have just popped it in, we didn't have an oven big enough for this thing in the first place. But if I would have, you know, popped it in the oven and then taken it out, put it in the pipe, because I never had that problem again with larger pine cones. So it's a surface moisture issue. You got to make sure you flash that off. So we're learning all kinds of life lessons here. So if you glue resin to resin, do you all have a glue or epoxy suggestion? I would just use 5-minute probably. Do not use CA glue. It's brittle. It's easy to crack that stuff. Use an epoxy of any kind, 15-minute, 5-minute, whatever it is. I mean, honestly, you could even literally use, like, if you've got epoxy resin, there's really effectively no difference between like Total Boat or Liquid Diamonds and 5-minute epoxy. It's just the way that it works. It's all epoxy though. So you could use it pretty much anything, and it should work pretty good. Yeah, you can also create like a mechanical bond. Um, I don't know who you're talking to, but you do need to do that sometimes. But I don't know if we're talking about this glue up thing and all that stuff. But if you're doing something like this with burl, you don't want to sand it all up. So, like I said, and I don't find that epoxies really have a problem. I've never had an issue with a bonding issue with epoxy. It's like stickier. And the other thing is, I think that also has to do with the fact that epoxies tend to be harder on molds, whether it be HDPE or silicone. They stick to things, even stuff that's non-stick. They're just stickier, just a little bit than urethane. I mean, for the most part. And if I'm not going to be able to see, so one thing I want to make clear, if I'm not doing a clear casting with wood, then I don't care. Because the bond is not like, it's not going to split or anything. It's just there's something weird going on that surface that, and if you see it, you guys saw the silver things on that burl cap. Like, I don't want to see that. That's not, it's more of a visual thing. I've never had any problems with a hybrid blank that was made with Alumilite clear slow or clear, either way. But it's all silvery, right? And I don't want that look. So if it's not transparent or dead clear, I don't really care. It just doesn't matter. But if I'm doing the clear stuff, I always pull out that amazing Clearcast Plus for hybrids. But be warned, it is a pain to mix up. It's super thick. Liquid diamonds is another alternative. It'll work exactly the same. And it turns pretty well too. I would say that I don't know, it's been a long time since I turned like a handle or something larger with liquid diamonds. One of my problems with liquid diamonds is actually pretty thin viscosity. So if you are doing something where you're mixing colors or anything like that with it can be maybe a little bit detrimental, the thinness, but it sure is easy to work with. I don't know. I don't really like dealing with the 30 to 45 minute working times of those resins. All right, so I got to think about this. So the tough thing is it's almost like I need another 2.5 gallon bucket to mix this in, and I don't have that. So I think what I'm going to do, what I do have is a cashew in a bucket. I don't know how that got there. It's a little bit dirty, but that's okay. I might have to... I think I'm going to have to... yeah, we got enough resin. Okay, so... Oh, the 15-minute didn't hold? Huh. Yeah, definitely. If it's very, yeah, like Firewood Steel mentioned, like if you're trying to glue if you're not going to see the bond, or, you know, has nothing to do with it. If you're not going to see that, make sure that there is some tooth to it. It's not just dead smooth. That should help. Make sure that you're getting equal amounts too. You know, sometimes maybe the ratio could kind of screw things up if it's like way off. I mean, 5-minute or even 15-minute epoxy though, you don't have to get it perfect, you know, really, but you know, just double check. All right, so we're gonna see how much I can fit in here. I've got almost 2 gallons of resin, and that bucket is not going to hold 2 gallons. So I think I'm going to have to probably mix up two different things. That's silicone. Got to find a resin mixing paddle. going to kind of quickly clean this off just a little bit. It's got some resin on it. Yeah, whatever, that's fine. Doesn't matter that much. This is a silly project to like basically get rid of resin. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't really care if things are perfect on this one at all. So again, I'm going to leave the wood in the oven until I'm done, until I'm like ready to, you know, pour this thing. And I'm going to pour it in this bucket. This is going to be my mold. This is my. I'm going to start. Actually, this one's kind of gross. I'm going to blow this one out. It'll be, even though I said I don't care. I don't need it. I'm not going to use both of these buckets, so I'll just use the cleaner one. All right, so let's see how much we can pour in here. I'm going to pour about halfway up or so. So this is part A. See if we can do like 12. We'll do like 1100. 12. 1,123. 1,123. I'm just going to write this number down so that I can match it with the B. I'm going to have to do another bucket, but we'll have plenty of time. 1,123. Oh, we went over. Shoot. 1,123. Didn't think about that. That poses a problem, guys. If your scale doesn't go as high as you need it to go. So this is gonna be a really terrible project. Luckily, I want to say that I'd rather be a little over, I think, on this. So I'm just gonna, let's see, it said it was almost at about 1,000. I'm going to say that's probably pretty good. I don't even know what to tell you if that happens to you, because I didn't even think about that. I guess I've never poured this much resin at once. I don't. Well, that's weird. All right, so we got one bucket that hopefully is closely matched up. If we have problems with this blank, it could be the resin. It could be the mixture. We just don't even know. And then I'm going to have to do, let's see here. Where's my buckets? There's my buckets. Forgot I moved them closer. All right, so like I said, luckily, this project doesn't really matter that much. I think I'm going to still be like I'm going to have a lot of part B left, I think. Man, I could have used another giant bucket. So let's just see where we're at here. 760. Yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of part B left. A lot of times I end up with a little extra part A, so I'll be able to get rid of that later. The other thing that I may do is there's a little bit left in here in the part A, and I can just mix the A and B even though the ratio is way off. It'll still oh, I'm putting the wrong caps on. It'll still probably work, like harden up enough to dispose of it. But I'm not sure if that will be the case or not. So you just never know. Okay, so got my paddle mixer. We're going to put it on, I do high. It's not on here. Now, one thing that I totally forgot to do, if you're going to be using a paddle mixer, definitely put on eye protection. I mean, you can easily make the argument, and most of the resin companies want you to be wearing all the PPE, because if you do get resin in your eye, it's going to suck really bad. You're probably going to have to go to like the hospital kind of thing. So, you know, I usually don't when I'm just normally working with it, but if I'm mixing it up with a machine, I'm definitely wearing glasses. Another thing, and I would actually normally put on you know, like a face mask, respirator kind of thing. The thing is, if you're like mixing this up, like stuff is like getting tossed out of the bucket while you're mixing it. So it's a good idea to wear face, you know, lung protection as well. Now, if you're going to paddle mix anything, you're definitely going to have to pressurize it, because it's going to be a complete mess. It's going to be a foamy mess. All right, now we need to put some color in this, I think. What do you guys think? You could mix it in the 5-gallon bucket. The problem is I want to pour different colors, number one, in there. So that doesn't, then this is my mold. And this isn't a 5-gallon, it's a 2.5-gallon bucket. This is the mold though. So I really don't want to do that. The other thing is, if I did this, there's a very high chance that I would leave some part A or part B, just a little bit here and there, but you can leave stuff in your mixing bucket. So I generally don't use my mold as the mixing cup. You're more likely to leave stuff on the edges, and so you're dumping your resin out, you know. But I don't really like using the mold. I could have done all that, dumped it back out, or, you know, done all this stuff, but, you know, whatever. It's fine. Let's see here. I think liquid diamonds might actually be on sale this week at Turner's. I'm not. I thought I saw something about that. I'm not sure. Yeah, the silver thing. I mean, it can have to do with moisture too. Moisture will definitely cause that. But so what's happening with that is, either way, you're getting something that is causing a bonding issue of some sort with that silver stuff. And I don't know what because I dried the wood out. It was stabilized and it was dry, because like I said, I do that method where, you know, I put it in the oven, and usually I'm pretty anal about it. Like, I will literally dry stuff overnight, even if it's stabilized wood or whatever. I'll just toss it in the oven and let it sit there and make sure that it's dry. And still, oh, what the heck is going on here? I still got silver stuff, and that was like pretty much the time, you know, when I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to use epoxy because I never have any issues with it. But like I said, I don't have any issues with, we're going to go with chicken egg blue. We gotta do some chicken egg blue, I think. I don't have any issues with the structural stability of it. It's just the looks that I have a problem with. I've never really noticed had any blanks that like where it like separated or something like that. It's kind of a weird thing. But either way, I don't really want to deal with it, you know. Okay, so we got some chicken egg blue. And I think we're gonna have to do something with a little bit of like a macro sparkle. Just a little bit of macro. And this is a case where I don't really care what the results are, so I'm just gonna get a little scooper. And let's just see what that is. I just want to add a little bit of sparkle to this. We added a little bit of blue to this too, because the paddle had some blue on it. All right, we got our colors. We got our wood still, you know, in the oven, flashing the surface off. I'm still going to look for temperature on this one, because otherwise it's totally just going to blend together, you know. But when I get ready, so let's see what temperature we're at right now on these guys. 80. Yeah, we got a minute to sit around here. Sold out at Turner's. Oh my God. Huh. It's because they, yeah, I thought there was like a discount going on. 10%. Now let's see here. What do I want to do with this stuff? Because I still have some left. I think I'm going to use, like I was saying, I think I'm going to use the remainder to dispose of this in the jug. There's just not that much. I got more B left over. And probably what ended up happening was sometimes usually I end up having more part B in the end. But I think what probably happened was I screwed something up and had to like toss out the part A or something, you know. That happens sometimes. Look at that sparkly goodness. I love a little sparkly goodness. What about you guys? You know what else we could do? I don't have anything that I like. I was thinking we could even toss in a little bit of glitter, but I want something kind of funky. I'm not seeing funky. What's in here? No. It's not going to do it. All right, let's see where we're at. I'm going to pour this at probably like like 100, 105 maybe. We'll have to see. All right, let's see what's going on in the chats here. Today I only speak Sparkle. This is going to be a bowl blank. What I'm doing, so because I don't do this kind of stuff anymore really. The problem is I had a bunch of resin. So last year I had a batch of resin, like 10 gallons that had like some sort of moisture contamination, and it's been sitting in my shop. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was going to use it for anything. It was usable, like it cured, but it was not working for pen blanks because it was causing weird foaming things going on. So it was screwing up all my team color blanks. But it's been sitting there and I need to dispose of it. So I'm just kind of illustrating the easiest way to dispose of resin. You can't throw it away in a liquid form. You can't just toss liquid resin in the garbage. Same thing goes for if you're a resin 3D printer. You can't just like dump it down the drain or something, okay? I would imagine most people know that, but if you don't, you can't, okay? So the way to dispose of any of these types of things is you need to harden it. Once it's hardened and cured, it's fine. You can just chuck it. So let's see, so we're at about 97. I'm gonna get the wood chunks out and started here. We're gonna do, so I got some really interesting weird pieces. I'm gonna put this thing like that. I'm gonna put this guy here, like that. Let's do that. Try and get this thing somewhere. And I got a couple of just chunks. I'd actually rather almost, I think we're going to start with a chunk on the bottom. Try and arrange these a little bit better. I don't know. The problem is, I really didn't want to cut these things because it would murder my blade, basically. And for something like this, I don't really want to waste a blade. There. We may toss this in on the top. So the nice thing about this is we can kind of pour it over the wood chunks and it'll kind of disperse it pretty good. Just going to kind of set this over my garbage can. About 101 or so. Probably a little higher than that on my scale. I didn't really mix it. I'm going to mix this guy up and see. That one's only saying 99. I think we can kind of start pouring here. Can you guys see the bucket? And actually, so I don't have to end up cleaning up all over the place, I'm actually going to, we got time. Once I start pouring, it's not going to take very long. Now I can set the thing down and the drips aren't going to bother me. So we'll just kind of start there. And then I'm actually just going to get rid of this stick. It's just going to be in the way the rest of the time. So this is pretty fun. Anybody made a bowl blank before? And how did you like it? Did you have any issues? Did you find it to be pretty easy? So these wood chunks are probably going to float, some of them. And that's fine. I'm not that worried about it. Like I said, this is just kind of a, we'll see how this goes kind of blank. And to be completely honest, I'm pretty sure this is going to cure fine. But because, I mean, this stuff, this resin is almost a year old. And you may know that Alumilite, I think they recommend like shelf life of like 3 months is what they're claiming at this point, which I think that's a little bit ridiculous, and they're just kind of trying to save their butts, basically. As long as the resin cures, generally it's fine for the most part. You may get like yellowing and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, if you're not sure there is like some sort of a problem, I don't know if, yeah, you guys can see, then, you may have to dispose of resin. And again, part of the reason, because I could have just done this whenever, but I figured I'd share with you guys. And I'd been meaning to do this for a while, but I just kept forgetting. And I thought it'd be it'd be fun to kind of, see a bowl blank being made, but pour a huge amount of resin and talk about the disposal thing, because it is an issue. You can't, like I said, you can't just dump or, chuck the liquid form resin in the trash can. I mean, you could, and maybe you'll get away with it, but if they ever find out, if somebody notices it at some point and they can identify you, they're coming after you. You'll get a phone call, because it is like a hazardous waste, and you have to dispose of that kind of thing properly. So, just be aware of that. And like I said, I mean, the simple thing is just, cure it. Just, pour it together, cure it. And then once it's in a solid block, it doesn't matter, then you're fine. It's not hazardous anymore. But if it were liquid, if it were still in a liquid form and you just chuck it in a garbage can and then they take it to the dump, it's going to probably seep into the ground, and it is a toxic chemical, at that point. So, I just kind of wanted to kind of illustrate that, talk about it. It was a long way to, give you a quick tip, but I thought it was kind of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. So this thing, it's a Alumilite Clear Slow. Honestly, a blank this big, even with Clear Slow, I mean, it's probably going to be ready. Like, I could probably pull it in an hour or something like that, but I'm not going to do that. So I'll leave it in for, guaranteed 2 hours. It's good. Like, it's cured for sure. Because Clear Slow used to have what do you call it? Like a demold time of 2 hours when they first introduced it. I think the problem was they initially intended it to be done. Like, that is why Alumilite Clear Slow was developed for pouring a gigantic amount of resin in a 2.5 or 5 gallon bucket with a bunch of wood. That's why they developed it. And so in that size, it's not going to overheat. That's why they developed it, because if you're pouring that, if you did that with an epoxy of any kind, I'm sure there are some out there, but I mean, you're not going to just take your total boat and just pour that much resin around, like the standard like bar top epoxy type of versions. I'm sure Total Boat at this point has a, and I'm not like bagging, or I'm just, they're one that I don't use that much that you guys might have seen. But like the standard bar top epoxies that are made to be a coating, they're going to overheat all day. Like it's going to be a nightmare. Like the whole thing's going to crack. It's going to yellow. It's going to be steaming. It's going to be bad. It's going to, and what ends up happening is the exothermic reaction goes out of control. It gets way too hot if there's a huge mass of resin. So if you're going to do this, you have to pick the right resin, hands down. Like, I mean, no questions. And offhand, the only ones that I know of that can do that, I believe, I'm almost certain there's a Total Boat that can be done that way. The thing is, you have to be a little bit careful about what you're seeing. So some people may have a huge blank, but if like 75% of it is wood, that's not the same thing as what I just did. I put a couple chunks of wood in there and it's like 2.5 gallons of resin. So you have to think about that, you know, if you're watching and seeing like a gigantic blank, how much of it is wood? Because if the whole thing was resin, the only ones I know of offhand, I'm pretty sure Total Boat does have a version. I just have no clue what name they call it. Alumilite Clear Slow definitely can be done that way. And then another one is Entropy Resins, I believe it is. They've got one that you can pour like a bowling ball size thing. And I'm sure there's probably even more. I don't know. Alumilite Clear Slow works so well and it turns so well that there's really no point in me looking at other ones because it does everything I want, you know. So, and I know how it operates. That's a lot of people are like, why don't you try this or that? And I'm like, because I don't know how it operates. I don't want to waste my money trying a new thing that does exactly what this one that I already know how it works does, you know. So that's why I don't really do a whole lot of testing with stuff. But anyway, let me stop talking and see what you guys thought about that. I made the wood to do that. I don't do stabilizing anymore. It's such a long and drawn out process and I don't do it enough. But I made it myself. It was dye stabilized wood. And where to get it, you can get it. There's lots of burl suppliers. Facebook is a good place to find stuff. Worldwide Burl is a really good company. But I mean, even like a lot of the, just like hardwood dealers, like I know Cook Woods, you can just go to their website and they have pictures of burl chunks that you can just buy. Pretty expensive from them. That's like your high price retail stuff, but it's it's kind of nice because you can like just get a picture and pick out the chunk that you want from lots of different species. But like I said, Worldwide Burl is probably the best source that I know offhand. But there's lots of places that are selling burls. And you can get them, like I said, Facebook in general is a pretty good place. Probably Instagram as well is a good place to kind of look, but just ask around people, you know, and that's just for the raw wood. You'd have to, you know, if you want it like all pretty and colorful, you're going to have to do the dye. I don't know people that dye stabilize as like a service like that offhand. I'm sure there probably are people that do it, but you know, I don't, like I said. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me. Yeah, Jungan Silver is the greatest, isn't it, Chris? It's good. It is like the best silver you can get, period. Okay, so I think I caught up to those comments. I wasn't paying a lot of attention because I just wanted to make sure I didn't totally screw that up. You know, and like the thing, dye stabilizing is fun. The problem that I had, the amount of time that it took me for how often I really use it. When I first got into it, I wanted full control over what I was doing with it, with just stabilizing and like the color stuff. The problem I have with stabilizing, and this is why, like, unless you're going to do a lot of it, it's kind of a tough one to get into, because, you know, you have to buy some amount of stabilizing resin, but the problem with the process is you have to fully cover the pieces. Now, the Turntex round chambers are excellent for this, but even still, what would happen was I would never go through all the cactus juice. Like, I'd still have some left and it would eventually go bad. And so I just didn't do it enough to where I was like, I really want to keep doing this. It's better to find somebody that does it, and I don't know who does it. So I had quite a bit left, so I've got plenty, you know, in my stores, but eventually if I want to do more with it, I'm going to have to find someone to do it for me. So, all right, so let's see here. So I don't want to deter people from getting into stabilizing. Like I said, I think that the greatest thing is the Turntex chambers really make it so that you're not wasting a bunch of resin. That's why Curtis developed those. They're just PVC pipes, but they work excellent for what they're doing. Because a lot of people would just get like one of those huge like pot things, and good Lord. I mean, if you're stabilizing a huge chunk of wood, then you're going to need to do that. But if all you're doing is like little chunks of wood and stuff, you know, it's tough. And the dye stabilizing, you don't necessarily need to use a ton of it if you're careful about what colors you're doing, but you will have to submerge it in one color fully, right? But you can, for doing the multi-dye stabilizing stuff, you don't need to have like a full coverage tube, because then that would get like prohibitively expensive if you needed like full chamber amounts of every single color that you wanted to do. That's the beauty of double dye stabilizing. You just let it soak it up. So you just have like a little cup of like green or blue or whatever, and the wood will suck it up through capillary action as your like secondary color, but then the primary color, you need to let it submerge. So you'd have to have like one color of, you know, whatever. And again, but I wanted lots of different things, and it just got kind of, it can get a little expensive. So I just want to warn people about that, but it's super cool. Like, it's super fun. It just depends on how much you're going to do. All right, so now we'll get on to the game plan for today. I'm going to put this thing away. My storage solutions don't allow me to put this 4 ounce or whatever. What do they call this? I think ounce thing of gold. So we're doing spring colored blanks. So we're going to do, let's see, where'd all my colors go? We're going to do, let's see, where'd the canary go? That's the macro. Oh, there it is. Okay, so spring colors. We're doing yellow, purple, and green. All right, but we're going to also match it up with interference colors. But this time, we're not going to dirty pour them. We're not going to combine them first. We've done a lot of that in the recent few past weeks. What I want to do is I want to have 6 colors, basically. It's 6 different colors. So the interference colors are also going to be poured separate, you know, or individually, whatever, which will make them like, it's going to be like bigger chunks of that or whatever, if that made any sense at all. There's going to be more of it. Let me just get that stuff out of the way. I got to get a drink, guys. Oh man, I'm getting thirsty. Okay. So, let me grab one of these things so I don't have to clean up all over the place. And I'll just leave that there. That. Okay, so we got all our things there. And let's get out our trusty notebook. Yeah, we're going to do, I was going for like Easter, but the Pen Blank Club subscription boxes, they're not going out till like a week and a half after Easter. So I was like, well, I'm not going to call these Easter blanks. We'll just call them spring. But they're kind of Easter focused, Easter, spring, it's all kind of the same thing. Same colors palette, All right, so today is 3/21. Super excited, guys. There's demo day up at the snowboard. The snowboard shop is having demo day up at the mountain. Hopefully the mountain's still open. So it was like 85 the other day. Like this is unheard of weather out here. But it'll be pretty cool. I'll get to try out, hopefully, as long as everything goes all right. Try out some different snowboards and gear and stuff. Spring Easter. I'm going to go with the Beast mold. We're going to do it. I'm just going to do one pour because we already did, quite a bit of time worth of stuff. Okay, so the Beast mold, if you're unfamiliar, is the 12 blank mold. These things are killer from P-Town. Got 12 pen blanks there. It holds 540 grams. Okay, so we've got 6 colors. We'll just let's see here. So we're going to do 60%. Let's see, where are we at here? 540 times 0.6. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to do 120, 120, 120. All right, so we got 360. 360 minus 540. We'll have 180 divided by 3. Okay, that's cool. I like this. Okay. Those numbers worked out pretty well. So 360 plus. Yeah, that'll be cool. So what I'm going to do is a little bit less, I think, interference. I think it's still going to work the way we want it, but it's going to be a little bit less of the interference. I want the main colors to kind of stand out a little bit more. So we'll have to see how this all works out. But so we're doing lilac. We're doing, I don't know how to, Sabafu green. And then we're doing canary yellow. So the lilac is a P-Town, the canary is a P-Town, the Sabafu is a eye candy. And then we're doing interference gold, kind of matching up the interference colors to these regular colors. We're doing interference green, and we're doing interference violet. Now, we've got 120 grams. We're going to put half teaspoon, I think, should be good for each of the main colors. And then for the interference colors, probably going to have to do about the same. Yeah, no, not. We'll do a quarter teaspoon because it's half the amount. We'll see how that goes. I'll look at the sticks and all that kind of stuff and see. Oh, we get to. This might work. I think this will work. I think we get to use our cool tray. I didn't even plan this, guys. Oh no! I didn't print the big one. Huh, that one fits better. Well, they've got these little things. Like, I think it's actually going to work. So we'll do the main colors in these 10-ounce cups. And then we'll do some 5-ounce cups. They definitely will fit. It'll work. It'll be okay. It'll still hold them. That's the only tough thing about these whole carriers. You got to watch what you're doing. Hey, how's it going, Jennifer? Welcome, welcome. Where did Jim have a wood supplier? Let's see here. Oh, maybe Mark. C. Jacob Wood. Oh, I see. Instagram. YouTube censors it? Huh. That's crazy. Well, they can hear me. C. Jacob Wood. That's cool. I like it. There's quite a few people that do that. Oh. Don't you hate it when the glove rips when you're putting it on? And it snapped me in the arm too. That wasn't fun. Like a rubber band snap. Come on. Cut me some slack, guys. Gloves. Whipping me. Jeez. All right. So we're doing Alumilite Clear slow. So I'm going to have to... All right, so I got to alter this just slightly. The numbers, 110 for the big cups, 110. And then I also wanted to add white. I forgot. I'm going to add just, and we're doing like a tiny, tiny amount of this white. So 30 grams. And I'm going to put 0.6 grams of the liquid pigment in there. I'm just going to give this a shake real quick right now. Even if you put the initials, they delete the comment. That's crazy. I didn't know that. They're like, no, you won't. Talk about our rival platform. All right, so 275. So I'm mixing a little extra in the cup because there's gonna be some still in the cup. I won't be able to get it all out. 270. Oh, I went a little over, that's fine. Not a big deal. 278, part A. And $278, I'm gonna do a little bit more by $279. That'll do. All right, now before I even mix that, one thing I kind of forgot. We're gonna I'm gonna get our pigments in. Oh, that's 1 teaspoon. I don't want that. Oh, my half teaspoon is being used somewhere else. So where's another one? Okay. A half of the purple. Half of the yellow. I think this lilac purple is going to be pretty nice. And Sabafu green, do a half teaspoon of that. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to 1/4 teaspoons for the other ones. The interference colors here. See how those go. Yeah, so I've never done one of these demo day things. There's a bunch of brands, snowboard brands, up on the mountain, and they're actually bringing next year's models of things. I I don't know. Part of me, I'm probably about due to get a new snowboard. I don't have to, but I think I want a different type. But I actually just want to ride because I haven't been exposed to a lot of different types of boards for quite a while now. So it'll be kind of cool to be able to just hopefully just jump on some different things, totally different types of snowboards, and see how they work. See if I want one that's different than what I usually ride. Has anybody ever done? I don't know how many people snowboard or ski, but anybody done that kind of thing? Curious to see how this thing goes. Okay, so we got that. I need one more cup for the white as well, but I'm not going to put the dye in there yet. All right, here we go. Yeah, I know. Well, what I'm finding is my board's fine. It works pretty well, but it's really long, and I have big feet, and I always end up having to buy like the longest board on the planet. But things have changed over the last couple of years in how snowboards are kind of built. They've moved to this thing they call short wide, and I don't know if I'm actually going to do one of those or not, but I still think I don't think I need as long a board as I have. I think I'd be a little bit more in control of something just shorter. So I want to try some different stuff out. There's, like I said, there's totally new technologies out there, and I've always just bought one board to do it all, and I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to do something different. I might buy a powder board, like a free ride board, a freestyle board, and a slush board. But I'm not buying brand new boards of all these things. Most of them actually would be used if I could find what I want. So I'm just trying it out. But either way, it gives me a chance to kind of get on a freestyle oriented board, see how I like it. Try one of the new technology kind of things. Try something like mine that's shorter. You know, like I don't know how it's going to work though. I mean, in theory, I should be able to just grab a bunch of different boards. There's a bunch of different manufacturers, and the problem though is how many people are actually showing up to this? How many boards are they actually bringing? Like, are they actually going to have the size that I want in the board that I want? Because it's not like they can bring their entire lineup, I don't think. So we'll have to see how it goes. I don't know. And I'm not a huge fan of crowds. It's on a Sunday. It's tomorrow. So we'll just have to kind of see how this all goes. I may... The biggest drawback to this thing is, so I pay for a season pass, and that gets me into, let's see, 110. That gets me into 3 resorts, but of course this thing is not happening at any of those. So I have to also buy, it's costing me out of pocket to just get in the door to this thing. I got to buy a lift ticket for this other mountain. Is that kind of, that's not awesome, but I do actually want to ride there. But the problem is the conditions are, this is not, I don't want to pay full price for the conditions we have right now, really. So we'll have to see. I may get up there and it's like between not being able to actually get on boards because there's too many people taking them out, and having like 50,000 people on the slope. Like if the slopes are just crowded, I'm out of there. Like I don't do that. That's how you get injured. That's how I would get injured for sure. Dang it, I got resin all over the outside of the cup. Don't you hate it when you get resin on the outside of the cup? Picking it up and it's all over the place. All right, so we're getting going along here. Putting 60 grams in each one of these guys, and then we're going to put 30 grams for the white, and that's just going to be like just a little bit of accent. I'm really going to go for like really thin things. It's just here and there, there'll be a little bit of white kind of popping out. just to kind of break up the two things. We're going to use a solid white, so that'll kind of break up the pearliness going on. Get a little solid color in there. But the white is just kind of, you know, a barren color. Now, if I wasn't going for like Easter colors, I would probably use black. But I don't really think that, or like Easter spring, I don't like the idea of putting black in these. It's not what I'm going for. So, but the black would probably pop, well, it will pop the interference colors. So that could have been cool, but next time. Oh, thanks, Jim. Yeah, this one's going to be fun, I think. Okay, so 0.6. Let me get this white going first. Okay, so we got that. And then, I guess I'm just going to use these. Yeah, I don't need to hold it. I'm so used to picking things up and holding them. Look at that. The holder works, guys. And it works even better on a desk that's high enough. If you guys haven't bought one of these holders, you get them at jakeblanks.com. And you can either, if you have a 3D printer, you can just buy the files and print your own. And he's got both sizes. He's got one that'll hold the 16-ounce cups, bigger holes. That's a 4-cup holder. And then this one's obviously the 6-cup, and it holds like 8 to 10-ounce cups and below. Kind of just depends, but it's holding my little, these ones I get at, they're Chinette, they're from Costco. So it holds that because it's got a little dovetail thing on the bottom. This is great. Heck, I could do 2 at a time. Look at this. I'm not very good with the left hand. It's kind of struggling there. My right hand, that's the one that I normally stir with. Look at that. Look at that purple. What do you guys think of this lilac? Definitely think we've got plenty of mica. That should work really well. Now with interference powders, you know, they tend to be kind of clumpy, and you're probably going to have to spend a little bit of extra time getting them mixed in. Depends. I find the eye candy ghosts they tend to be less clumpy. Pearlex interference powders tend to be clumpy for sure. And I haven't tried too many other ones. Actually, P-Towns are pretty good too. I would probably lump them into, tends to be a little bit more clumpy. I think the eye candy is probably the best for minimal clump factor, clumpage. Okay, so I got to get the temperatures. We're probably getting kind of close, honestly. I'm going to pour, I mean, really, I should have poured these at 95. Oh, we're okay, 91. Look at that. Look at that. I had plenty of time. I'm actually kind of surprised about that. 92. I mean, I can pour like it now, I think. These interference colors are a little bit lower looking. No, maybe not. Sometimes the smaller cups, it's hard to get an accurate reading on the temperature gauge, I find. Okay, so I think I'm just going to start pouring these things. And then, so again, I'm going green, green, yellow, gold. Let's do a little bit of, well, I think I need to do the white in between. I'm going to pour this interference gold real quick. Then we're going to hit some white. Just a hint of white. The other thing that does is it'll kind of move the colors around just a little bit. Ooh, I think these are going to be good though. These already look like a flower bouquet on the top. Like a painting. All right, we'll go back to the green. Hit it with some white. Go back to yellow. Do a little bit of purple, lilac. And we'll hit it with some white again. We're getting close to the end here, so. This worked out pretty good. I'm happy with like the cadence or whatever. Kind of missed it on that one, but a little bit of white here. Pretty good on the white. I'm pretty happy with the way that worked out. The green there. Should be interesting to see how this turns out. Like I said, you get different results. Like if I had poured the interference, done like a dirty pour, we'd be looking at totally different looks in the final blanks. Like it would significantly change how these things look. And we'll just finish it off with this purple here. I always like to get it filled to the brim and plus, because what's going to happen is there's air bubbles in these, and if you just fill to like the top, it's just even with the top and not kind of over it. What's going to happen is you put it in the pressure pot, that air is going to get removed, basically all those little air bubbles, and the volume is going to shift down. So you're going to be left with shorter than whatever the mold actually is, blanks. So we're going to go with the full stick, the regular bendy stick with the hook. These things should get nice and mixed up. But not like bleeding or anything like that. I'm just going to get some swirls going on. The tops look terrible. Don't be, if you do this and you're looking at the top and it just looks like it's kind of all bleh, gravy, that's not what the inside of the blank looks like. We're going to get some really cool looking swirls and stuff. It ends up blending together at the top because we're kind of pooling it all there, all these colors and stuff. So don't be afraid. Don't be worried. As long as you've done the right temperature, So I mean, technically, the inside could be bad, but typically, like as long as you're at like room temperature in your shop, And I mean, if you wait till like 90, 95, you should be good with mica powders. You know, everything should be okay. But that looks pretty awesome. You can kind of get an idea of what's going on in there. The one thing, so the interference colors are gonna look kind of white also. So it's kind of an interesting, what we did is kind of an interesting mixture actually, because we kind of did like, you know, all these different colors, right? And then we did this like interference, kind of like a complementary color to the main colors. But then also we threw in white, which is the interference powders are also going to look kind of white, but also give off that like halo effect of the color. So it's going to be kind of an interesting thing. We did kind of a double down on this like weird complementary mixture thing. I don't know that we're going to get a whole lot out of these cups. It's 540 is about perfect. It's not really worth. It's going to take forever. Yeah, so not a lot of extra. If you do 540 grams, especially when you've got a lot of small cups, there just isn't a whole lot left. Oftentimes, to do like the your over pour extra. So just be aware of that. If you're doing the beast mold and you want extra, you'll probably want to go up to like 550. You may want even more than that if you're doing a bunch of small cups. Just so you get, like each cup, you got to, if you're splitting it between 6 small cups, there's just not a lot left over. If you only got like 2 or 3 cups, 540 is probably going to give you a little extra resin from the beast mold. All right, so I'm just going to wipe these down with some acetone real quick here so that I can not think about it. I like to just keep everything nice and clean. Look at that. Clean, ready for the next pour. I like to get all the dyes and stuff. The reason I'm so diligent about this is I usually work with dyes for all the team colors, and like if there's dye left on these things, there's a very high likelihood that it's going to mix and alter the color of the next blank if I use it right away. So I like to keep everything nice and clean so there's no chance of me screwing my colors up. And for team color blanks, it's kind of the whole point. The colors have to be on. Can't be off with your color, you know. That's the whole point. So anyway, those things looked pretty good. I really like those like kind of lighter spring colors. I've done some spring color blanks in the past going for, and it was very similar colors. Green, purple, and I think maybe yellow. Might have just been green, purple, and white even. And I really like that combination. It just makes you think of like a flower bed, you know. Flowers is kind of the first thing that comes to mind with those things, so it's pretty cool. So let's see here. Yeah, 540 is like perfect on those. Let's see. Yeah, I can't wait to see these out of the mold too. And like I said, the top, if you do like the stir stick thing, it really looks like you just screwed up the whole thing. Like it's all, but like I said, as long as you've got your temperature, if you know the temperature that you should be pouring at, you've got that fairly well dialed in. It's not going to be gross on the inside. You're going to get some really good swirls, and you don't even have to have crazy, you know, frankly, at this point, I don't know that there's a significant difference between this one and this one, but there is a difference, I find. And this may vary depending on the way that you pour, the temperature, I don't know, the moon phase. So some things may change for you, but the difference between having a hook on the end and not does make a difference. If you're spinning this thing like I was doing while you're going down and while you're coming up, it tends to really pull around a little bit more than if you just stick this thing in and try and do this. And I like this one too, though. I find that the one without the hook tends to pull. It's like it's doing more of this, like up and down, versus this one also does up and down. It kind of stretches the swirls, but it also, because for some reason the hook gets you a little bit more like around the blank. So, but way back in the day, I put this little bend in it. I don't know that really, I haven't necessarily found that significantly changes anything. I finally just made one with just a hook, and I was like, well, that's pretty good. It's kind of doing the same thing. There maybe if you have more bends in it, it might give you just a little bit more swirling or something like that. But it was pretty much not apparent with the test, or the things that I've looked at comparing them. So, but like I said, I think the hook on the end does do something a little noticeably different. Not massively crazy different, but a little bit. The one thing I will say though is if you're in a time crunch, it's a lot easier to just do a straight one. That's spinning, like you miss it, and it can get a little bit kind of out of control with the spinning thing. It's a lot easier just to kind of go down and up, and you're going to get through it a lot faster. So, try both, see what you like. So anyway, guys, yeah, so pretty fun today. We'll have to see how this bowl blank thing looks. And one of these days I'll have to turn that up and see if it, that resin was pretty old, and I told you that there was an issue with the resin. We'll have to see if that caused any weirdness in the blank, or the way that looked. I don't know. Everything seemed to actually work pretty well with that stuff. But it was causing weird stuff with like the liquid pigments. I was getting really terrible results with that stuff. That's that one that had like a moisture contamination or something. And I think what might have happened with that, it wasn't like it was bad from the factory, because like Alumilite was really great about this whole thing. Like they tested batches for me and went back, and they actually looked at like all the different like batch numbers, and were like, yeah, we haven't gotten any, like nobody else from these batches that yours was from has had a problem. Nobody's called us. And I mean, if there was really a problem, we probably would know about it. So it was something to do with me and my shop. And I think what happened was on those carboys, so I buy these big 10-gallon guys. I'm going to put this right here. I think what ended up happening was I left either it didn't seal properly, or I left this thing open, the like air vent thing. And I think moisture got in there and contaminated one side or the other. I don't know, whatever. But I was definitely having problems with that batch of resin that I really didn't have from other batches. However, at the same time, I also, once the temperature got to like, really like above 80, like approaching 80 in my shop, like the team color blanks just didn't turn out that well no matter what. So I'm debating on whether I'm thinking about buying the white foam panels, like the insulation foam. It would cost a fortune for me to actually enclose this, like frame it, and all whatever, and totally enclose this room, and then put it like an air conditioner in the casting room. But that's really what I need, and I should have done this 10 years ago. So what I'm thinking about maybe trying to do, I don't know if this is going to work, is buying just the foam panels, like the 2-inch thick white foam insulation panels, buying a bunch of them, and like I may build like some sort of makeshift frame thing, but I mean technically I could probably get away with just like duct taping them together somehow, enclosing just my little casting desk here, and then putting a ceiling on it, and then just putting like one of those portable AC units in here. And I mean, I'm probably not even going to duct the exhaust out of the shop. I just maybe up or something like that. I don't know. It's not going to be ideal, but I'm a little bit worried this summer because I'm basically not going to be able to pour team colored blanks in the summer. The other ones are fine. I usually don't have any issues with the mica powders, but the trying to mix together, especially certain colors with liquid pigments, it's really delicate work. And I had to do a bunch of different things to kind of get the pouring method to work perfectly. So we'll have to see. And if I do enclose this thing, realistically, everything's fine. The problem is the lights. I mean, I don't have a problem just sticking up some foam panels, and we actually have like one of those portable things, so I don't necessarily have to go buy one to test this out. It isn't going to be cheap buying the foam panels, but I think it'd be worth like about $500 enclosing this and seeing if I can maintain like a, you know, it doesn't even have to be that much lower, just like if I could drop the temp like 10 degrees in just like a, you know, tiny little room, it'd be pretty sweet. So anyway, so that's, I'll keep you informed if I do decide to do that. But anyway, guys, I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend, a great night, and hopefully you'll get some work done in the shop too. But if not, hopefully the temperatures are pretty decent. You can get out and enjoy the spring that's sprung. At least it is on the West Coast. So anyway, thanks for joining the fun tonight, and I'll see you guys next week, and we'll turn one of these guys up and see what the results are. So I'll talk to you then. Have a good one, guys.